We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC and Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. It's Thrift, Barringer, it's Rich Holdridge, back in the saddle, back for a busy week, because before you know it, Richard, Friday Night Lights is almost upon us. My heart's already pounding. I'm so excited for all the matchups and all the games we're going to be able to go out and broadcast. It is going to be an incredible season.
Incredible. Indeed, 17 days away from the first official game, which will take place on August the 14th. That is the Corky Kell Classic up in the Metro Atlanta area. But high school football is going to officially take place 19 days from now. August the 16th will be our first game, and I cannot wait. I'm already just excited about this upcoming high school football season. I know we got Muskogee County High School Football Media Days coming up. We got Brookstone Media Days. That I've already done my poll, my preseason top 10. I've already done it because that's how excited I am about this upcoming high school football season.
I know you are, Richard. We'll be dropping our poll as we did all last year and got some traction with it. So that should be a lot of fun being able to throw that out there, our preseason top 10. But Richard, it's just a good time. As we know, right after Friday Night Lights, the week after that, college football starts with Florida State, Georgia Tech, and the week after that is when week one is officially going for a lot of teams. They consider that Florida State, Georgia Tech game the week zero game, if you will. But right. Football's here, and guess what? Next week, Hall of Fame game. So that's this Thursday, actually. So football's here, and every weekend until February, you're going to be able to watch a football game from here on out, whether it be exhibition, high school, college. Just buckle up for an exciting season. But, Richard, you were on vacation. We were able to do a great show, by the way. So, first off, on Wednesday, let's talk about your vacation. Then we'll talk about what Columbus United was able to accomplish this year.
Thank you. It was very much well-needed vacation. Sometimes we just need to relax and just spend time with the family and just get away from it all. But I had the privilege of helping out doing the show, did the Columbus Coaches Show with Coach Robert Peters on Friday. I mean, he was available. We ended up doing the interview, and I'm just ready just to get back to work. I know that we've been just doing an outstanding job just knocking out all these schools as far as state of the program, sitting down with an athletics director, right. And also the coaches shows as well. And then just coming up as far as Columbus United FC, I watched the game. They were what they accomplished in their inaugural season.
It's unreal.
It's unreal. They had 96 teams. They were one of the 4 teams left standing in the NPSL. They did lose to, which is considered the best team in the NPSL, FC Motown up in New Jersey, 2-0. And their season comes to an end, but congratulations to Coach Brett Teach. Congratulations to the owners, Michael Hitchcock and J.D. Hester. Congratulations to the Director of Operations, Paxton Bush. And just the whole organization. I cannot wait until 2025. This is here to stay because the fan base rallied around United and they came out and saw them. And this was a team that just never quit. When you thought they were done, Like when they were down a couple of times by some goals against Pensacola and against Tallahassee. We saw those matches on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, but they never quit. They became road warriors, beating Jacksonville Armada in the Gulf South Championship, and then beating Hickory FC in the South semifinal, beating West Texas FC in the South final, and then their season ends up coming up just a little short to FC Motown.
Yeah, Richard. We had Coach Brett teach on, periodically throughout the season. And he's a lot of fun. And what he did with these group of men, young men, and they obviously have now these memories that are going to last a lifetime, hopefully friendships that will blossom for forever. But what they accomplished in year one, not just with the wins, Richard, but with the community buying in, I only see a bright future, and I see next year, Richard, it being top notch. And I'll go ahead and call it. Your play-by-play announcer for the 2025 Columbus United season is going to be Richard Holdridge. It's going to be right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We can't wait to do it. Your home for Columbus Lions will be right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. It's what we do, man. And it's looking like CVCC Athletics will also be back. And we're looking forward to being able to do them. So just added on what was already an incredible team of high schools around our area. We had the professional organizations. We're your one-stop shop to watch all things live, sporting-wise, in the Columbus, Georgia area, Richard.
Yeah, that would be really cool next year if we could live stream one of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup games, because they qualify for the U.S. Open Cup, which includes USL teams, Major League Soccer teams. So Atlanta United might be in the. I mean, I don't know if they qualify, but you got Major League Soccer teams, you got teams from like Birmingham FC, Chattanooga. So that's going to be really cool that they qualified. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. But it was a great season for Columbus United for sure. We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to preview some high school football. Just hit on what we did with Jack Patterson, but me and Richard really didn't expound upon our thoughts on what we think could happen around the Tri-City area. But we're going to have on Rick Beach. He's going to be an integral part of what we do. We'll have him on in just a second. But it should be a fantastic show. Also, this Wednesday, we're live from Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. 6 o'clock. Richard, do you have the graphic? You know why I love you, Richard, is because you're an MVP. When producers know what their hosts and their co-hosts want, that's when you got great chemistry. Live this Wednesday, 6 o'clock, Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. We're going to have great guests on, as we always do. We're going to be touching on college football. Me and Richard are actually going to go in depth on who we think is going to win, lose, and we're going to have some other people on. They're going to expound upon it, talk some high school football as well. Incredible live show. If you're in the area, why not walk in? We got some free stuff we'll give you. We'll even let you come on the show if you want. And then you can see all the great inventory at Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC and why everybody leaves with a smile.
Yeah, you can't beat that deal. And up there in Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika, Jared Hudson does just a fantastic job. You've been seeing the commercials on our broadcast here on this show, and we really enjoyed just being up there, and it's been a great partnership with Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, and it's a really just a good atmosphere just to be in the showroom and giving a live show. And a lot of people in the area, they love sports. I mean, they support their high school sports teams, and with high school football just around the corner, Thrift, that our audience is going to get a little bit bigger because it just means more. There are people in this area that love high school football, and it has that feel on Friday nights. I mean, especially, yeah, it's big in the Chattahoochee Valley, but you go into the surrounding areas like Opelika, Bulldog Stadium is packed. You got Valley and Lynette, those stadiums, Dan Washburn Stadium on a Friday night, a Lynette home game, absolutely packed. They love their football in the surrounding areas.
Yeah, they do. And we are glad to be going live and cannot wait to do this. And then we're going to have some special guests on I got a couple in mind that live in the area, Richard, that love college football, and to get them in person would be really cool. So hold on, hold your horses, but I got something brewing. All right, take the graphic off, Richard, and let's go ahead and bring him on. He is the voice of Harris County, proudly wearing his HC hat. He also has his own media company called Kudzu Sports, and he is a huge part of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And Richard, Richard, I do this every time. You knew it's been a while since we've all been on the show. It's been a minute. But Rick, how you been, man? I hope you've had a great summer, and looking forward to having you on every single week.
Hey, man, been doing good. Just waiting on football. We're less than 3 weeks away. High school football.
And guess what? Huge thing dropping in a couple weeks. Manchester and Harris County are playing. And I will start there, Rick. And we got a lot of places we're going to go. But let's just talk about that rivalry in general. I want you to set the stage on why this is such a big deal for both of these programs, and also what you got coming up, what you and Chris been cooking on here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, Harris County, Manchester, border counties, Meriwether County, Harris County border, up to the north, kind of the northeast side of Harris County. A lot of people from live on that border. They get to choose where they go to school, and just creates great rivalry. Hadn't played in 19 years, been a while. Manchester dominated throughout the history of the series, but a lot's changed. Harris County, Manchester were both lower classifications. Harris County in the last 20 years obviously has blown up. 5A last year, the elimination of 7A become a knockdown back to a 4A, but it's still a lot bigger school than what Manchester is, which has always stayed, in the lower classifications, which kind of killed the rivalry to an extent. But with it coming back, the history of the rivalry, the people, how much that game means to both sides, a huge crowd's expected at Manchester already. Being compared to the excitement of the semifinal game last year that was played at Manchester, that's the size crowd they expect for the Harris County game.
Man, that's going to be incredible. Richard, you were able to call some Harris County games. That one against Russell County that really set the stage for a 9-1 season. But what's your expectations with Harris County this year after having the best season in the history of the football program? Richard, I'm talking to you, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, Harris County made it to the quarterfinals. They hosted. They did lose to Jefferson. I mean, there's no shame in that. I mean, Jefferson had downtown Sammy Brown. I mean, they were a powerhouse. Harris County does lose a lot of players. They lose the quarterback Levi Watson. They lose Matei Yeomans, who was the linebacker and running back. I mean, they lose Miguel Sevilla. A lot of players on defense. I'm excited for that game against Manchester because that's a rivalry renewed. Week 2, Troup County comes back to the county. This is another rivalry game because these are two border schools, Troup County and Harris County. I mean, Rick, you know how good Troup County has been the last couple of years, making it to the semifinals 2 years ago. They did lose Teo Todd for the season last year, but Logan Sinkfield came in. They won their first round of the playoffs, and you know that Coach Tanner Glisson is going to have Troup County ready. That's going to be another outstanding rivalry game in week 2. And then they're in a new classification in 4A. So, Rick, just talk about this new classification in 4A and what are some of the key games that you're looking forward to in region play?
Well, you mentioned the Troup County. That as Manchester, there's a crossroad where they meet. All three counties, Troup, Meriwether, and Harris, come together. And it's the same thing. You get kids going, they grow up playing in Harris County, then, magically pop up playing football at Troup County in high school. And that's something Harris County's working on trying to prevent in the future. But when you're looking, Troup County's always been a big rivalry. Haven't won. I believe 2021 was the last time Harris County beat, or probably 2020 was the last time Harris County beat Troup County. It's, the last couple of years been long Friday nights of that game, but it's usually the opening game of the season, with Manchester coming to kind of moves it around. But having these rivalries back to back is big. And going into the new region for Harris County, you're looking at a region that's got some pretty top dogs in it, but also they're looking at Harris County thinking the same thing. A team coming in here, coming off an 11-2 season. Harris County's never had back-to-back double-digit win seasons, and they've been playing football since 58, I believe. So you're looking at a team trying to write their own history, but, that's what Harris County's trying to get going here lately. And last year you could see it start becoming what it was, and the Tommy Watson brand of football kind of coming to fruition. The working on it the first year he was there, just the physical mentality that he brought in that first year. Doing board drills before the game, he would do that. Just installing this physicality to them, and you see it in the middle school. Now those guys that were freshmen are coming up juniors, 3 years in this physical spring, summers, and falls, and it's finally starting to show. And I think there's an excitement level to Harris County going. They're not just going to be this flash in the pan season. There's a good chance that they could repeat. Maybe not go 11-2 and as deep, but you bring back your entire offensive line. That was a big reason that running game was so good last year. Harris
Right.
County's always had great running backs. Even you go way back to Brad Johnson, we spoke with, who went to Georgia Southern from, he played in the 90s. And then obviously you had D-Rock Brooks was a running back with some great stats before he went to Western Kentucky. Tay Crowder, then you had Yeoman and Sevilla at the running back. So they're always producing running backs up here. But this offensive line is special, and it's, partly, the kids' talent level, their third year in this physical system. Just Tommy Watson, the offensive lineman, played at Mississippi State, started at Mississippi State. He's brought that to them, and you could definitely tell it's wearing off on them.
I'll tell you what, a couple things I took away from last year, Rick. For one, we rode the wave that was the biggest wave last year in this area. And I will always be thankful for contacting you because I was doing Carver Spencer, which had its own type of fame and a lot of notoriety for it on Georgia, Alabama. So I really started getting our brand out there, if you will. But I was like, Rich, I don't want you to do the game by yourself. Why not get Rick Beach? He knows everything that goes on in Harris County. He keeps up with it. I know him. He's a really great guy. You said you were on board, and the rest was history after that, man. And I think when we got this year, literally everything that's Harris County is going to be you, but you're going to be doing other things as well. Plus, you're going to have your kudzu sports show. I mean, I'm glad that this is where you're calling home, and that means a lot to me, Rick, because you could do that elsewhere, but I'm glad that you want to be a part of this, and what we got going for this upcoming year is going to be incredible. But to Harris County's point, just seeing what I saw last year from not just the team, but the entire community, man, it felt like Friday Night Lights you saw in Odessa Permia, if you will, going back to the actual TV show or the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed calling every single one of those games and seeing that Harris County getting better each and every week, where they obliterated a great Sandy Creek team and won the state championship last year, where they took care of business against everyone in the region. I think that this Harris County team, like you said, offensive line, the running game will be there. It really depends on the quarterback play. When you lose someone like Levi Watson, who could do it all and just a great game manager, that's what you like to call him, Rick. How do you feel like Harris County is going to do in replacing that, especially when you got to go up against Manchester, pressurized game, huge game, Troup County, and then Carver? Those are your first three games for the quarterback. Tell me what you think about it, man, because I'm going to be honest. I'm a little nervous, and I feel like it could be a rocky start for Harris County if they don't feel like the quarterback position can lead them to prosperity. Not saying that it won't, but I feel like that's the biggest question mark for sure, right?
Yeah. When you're replacing a Levi Watson who ran the system, you saw, perfectly last season, he ran that system. He kept them, kept ahead of the chains, kept them in the situations. We saw Harris County go for it multiple times, but they're always 4th and 3, 4th and 4 in that situation, always in a 4th and short situation constantly, just running the game when they threw it. You do have a great wide receiver, Rand Ogletree's got D1 offers at Georgia State and Appalachian State. Shout out to A.J. Howard, another Harris County former player that's coaching at Appalachian State. But you got this guy that's a phenomenal athlete who used to play quarterback himself. But, they're going to throw some screens like we saw him last year with the Ram. You got Gates. You got, Rico Brown. So you got these guys that can kind of help the defense step back a little bit so they can't just focus in on that running game. And Trotter Teasley looks like he's going to be the starter this year. Just manage the game. You don't have to go out there and be a superstar with this offense. That's not a Tommy Watson ran offense where you get out there and be flashy. He wants to just line it up, He wants to run that power T and just smash you in the mouth every drive if he can help it. But
Right.
when you have an athlete like Rand Ogletree, you kind of have to use it. So they do have some talent on the outside, but all Trotter needs to do is just stay within himself, play the Tommy Watson system, which is smash you in the mouth, and you're going to get a lot of victories that way. Because high school kids do not like
I,
getting hit every single play right in the mouth, except these county boys love punching you in the mouth every single play.
I'll tell you, Harris County will definitely be in my top 10 coming in this year. I think they're going to, under Tommy Watson, it's not a thing of like, all right, well, we had a great year this year. Now it's going to be a down year the next year. I think he continues building. I think this team goes between 6-4 to 8-2. Undefeated, it's going to be hard just because of the schedule. But I think the sky's the limit for them for sure. And the big thing I saw with Levi, too, is when everything, all else failed, he could use his legs. He was a game changer in that. Not just game manager, a game changer as well. That's big shoes to fill, but maybe Trotter can be able to do that. Rick and Richard, we'll move on from Harris County because I don't really want to give prediction on records and stuff like that. We'll do that in the next coming weeks. It's really just to, hit on all the teams around it. So we started Harris County. Let's bring it on to Muskogee County. That's right below Harris County, another neighboring county that has some rivals or potential rivals. We'll start with the entire Muskogee County. And Richard, I'll go with you. Obviously, Carver is a prohibitive favorite in the region that has 7 of the 8 schools in it, with Northside being in the same region as Harris County, and we'll do them separately. But we'll have all 7 of those teams. It's Carver and then everybody else. But who is that everybody else in your opinion?
Well, I've actually seen a report that Sumter County, the lone team that's in the region that's not from Columbus, is a team that could make the playoffs. But you know that when it's all said and done, Carver is probably going to be the favorite to win the region. Remember, they went to the semifinals last year. They were hosting a game where they fell to Savannah Christian in the 3A state playoffs. They're now in 2A. And I keep saying this. I believe there's a collision course that it's going to be Carver and Callaway in the state championship. I mean, remember that the private schools don't play in the 3A and below classifications. They have their own classifications. Prince Avenue Christian's in 2A this year, but they're going to be the private level. When you think of the defending champion of 2A, Pierce County, it comes to mind. That's where Stetson Bennett went to high school. They could be the favorites. I do think, Fitzgerald used to be a powerhouse in 2A. They went down to 1A. So I think that this is Carver's team. I mean, when you think of the speedy receivers they got, you got to think of Jacoby Caslin and Braylon Jakes. I think that Matthew Mungden actually started as the quarterback, but you got to get him the ball to those 2 wide receivers. I think Carver's got the 2 best wide receivers in Muskogee County. They are dynamic, electric, and they're gonna make a lot of people miss. And that Coach Pierre Coffey just continues building up the Carver football program, and we see them playing at the next level. It's next man up. They lose a big-time player, another big-time player steps in, and they've got Kelston Popcorn Tarver, the transfer from Russell County, that's going to be playing for Carver this year. I don't know where he is on the depth chart in the backfield, but I do think that Carver is the favorite in 2A. If I were going to pick some of the teams that could sneak in and get those playoff spots, Spencer looks like a team that could possibly do that, but they miss out on Gary Gaither. He's already graduated, the 3-year starter. That Coach Johnny Garner's got a good football program at Shaw. That Coach McKenzie is going to continue building up Hardaway. I mean, they've got a sophomore quarterback and Bobby Gary. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. Look out for Sumter County because I think they could be competing with these teams as well.
Rick, what do you think? What do you got with Carver?
Yeah, same thing. I think, the classification leave the region changing just opens it up where they should have a pretty not easy path. It's never easy to get into the playoffs, but a favorable path to get into the playoffs, to try to stay healthy and to make that deep playoff run that, the people from Columbus and Carver been expecting for the last few years. And I think this is the year they can finally cap it off with the trip to Mercedes-Benz.
I like Carver's schedule too. They got Whitewater, they got Spencer, then they got Northside, But then after that, it's all the rest of the what's in their region. I think this team could easily go undefeated, guys. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I think Pierre Coffey, this is his most talented team. And now with him being in this region, I think he's going to supplant his dominance. And I can see, the Tigers hosting that trophy at the very end of the season. They are definitely one of my favorites. If I had Thrift's favorites, I definitely would put Carver in that mix. Outside of Carver, though, some teams that I keep an eye on, Spencer, back-to-back region champs. I think Joe Kegler's got a team that's going to continue to contend. I see 6-4, 8-2 around that area making the playoffs this year. Another team that I think they really could surprise some people, Richard. I really want to say Hardaway. I'm just, maybe it's just me, and I love Kendall Mills, and I want what's best for Coach McKenzie. I know what he had to do last year with the talent. I mean, a lot of developing. I just feel like they could be a team that could surprise some people this year, man, just being in their region. I don't know what to expect from Columbus, new coach, Jordan, new coach, Kendrick, new coach. So I definitely put them in the mix as a team that definitely could contend and make the playoffs this year. What do you feel about that, Richard and Rick?
Yeah, I do think that Hardaway could make the playoffs. So remember, in 2021, they went 6-5. That was the year that Michael Williams was on the team, and they were in a very tough region with LaGrange, Troup County, Carver. I think what Coach McKenzie is building at Hardaway, you got to remember, they played a brutal schedule last year.
Brutal.
They played 6A Noonan. They played Peach County. They played Harris County. They played it. It was just absolutely brutal. And then when they got to region play, I don't know if they just didn't have nothing left in the tank. I mean, they were playing Westover, Cairo, Bainbridge, and Shaw, and they had a very tough season. I don't think they won a game last year. I mean, hopefully they could just continue to improve, and they do have that electric dual threat quarterback in Bobby Gary, who's coming in as a sophomore.
Rick, what do you got?
I see Hardaway as that team that kind of rises up from where they were last year. A lot going on last year with the last couple of years, really, but last year was especially a down year for them. I would like to see some of these teams, by some of them, mostly Jordan. I went to Jordan. I'd like to see them be competitive. Hey, let's not talk about winning. Let's just be competitive in some of these games. The blowouts the last couple of years, I think it's time that a team like Jordan and even Kendrick to an extent kind of shows a little more that they're making a step in that right direction. And hopefully this is the year for Jordan with a new coach is showing, hey, we might not win a game, but let's be competitive in one of them maybe,
Rick, you're bleeding that red jacket blood. Hate you, my man. I love it.
Competitive. That's what I want to see from them. I know some guys that are still down there. One of them's a coaching down there. I ain't gonna say, but hey, just they're trying. I know the coaches.
They're trying.
But yeah, they got to put a competitive product on the field.
No doubt.
I think we saw it for a half against Columbus. Y'all did the game last year.
It was competitive.
Columbus was a tight game. Jordan had some chances, a couple overthrows on some wide open receivers, but they ended up getting blown out in the end. And when you look at it, man, it's brutal the last couple of years. And look at the results.
Yeah, I can't wait for football, man. I was just thinking about those Friday nights. Dude, Thursday nights up
Thursday
nights up in Connect. Me and Richard calling football together. Friday nights, me, Rick, and at Harris County, or me and Richard at Glenwood. Just an incredible time. Richard at Russell County. Just incredible. And we're gonna have it all this year.
It's the sounds, the smells, everything. I can't wait for it to get here.
It's the concessions. It's when it's the sun setting. The lights are starting. It's not all the way set, but the lights are on. They need to be on. People are starting to get in that anticipation of, man, it's finally back. I just can't wait. It's nothing like it. And then being able to call games, which was a dream come true for me, and I know for both of y'all as well, it's going to be excellent. We're going from Muscogee County. Let's talk some of the private schools. All right, and we're going to go Glenwood first. They're moving from the AISA to the AHSAA. Now, Rick, you were on that call in that state championship game that was just a brutal, heartbreaking loss for a Glenwood team that was undefeated and looking to solidify one of the best seasons in school history. Now you're going to 3A and public school sector. That's going to be tough. You're in a tough region. You're even having to face some teams like Valley, who's coming to your place.
But Coach Nelson has brought in a ton of talent. His development has been elite. He's got an incredible coaching staff, starting with Josh McConnell. Ryan Nelson is the guy that calls the plays on offense, McConnell on defense. I think they're going to be fine, and I think they'll make the playoffs. Now, state championship, you're replacing a guy like Dallas Crow, who was, I feel like, one of the best quarterbacks in Glenwood history. When you're replacing that, it's going to be tough, but I expect Glenwood to be competitive. I expect them to make some noise, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Coach Nelson's going to put on the field. We'll have our coaches shows at Mike and Ed's. Richard, that's just going to be a lot of fun to be able to do that for sure. And actually, Coach McKenzie was just watching the show. So thank you, Coach, for tuning in right now. I'm telling you, y'all are one of my favorites to maybe this year surprising people. But going back to Glenwood, Rick, we'll start with you. You were there for that game. You know how talented this team is. You called some Glenwood playoff games with me. What do you expect from the Gators this year moving to the public school sector?
I think they'll transition pretty well. You look at the facilities, you look at their stadium, the atmosphere. It's not like you're going from a private school where everybody's sitting on their hands and, doing a couple points. They're excited. It's a nice football atmosphere. And we'll find out quick with Valley coming in there, but I think they're going to make a pretty smooth transition as far as being a competitive team. And, making the playoffs that first year is not out of the realm of possibility.
Richard.
I do think they are a different type of private school. They're the type of private school that will dress 60 players. And they do have talent. You got to remember that A.J. Harris played at Glenwood. I mean, you have a Dallas Crow that was a very dynamic dual threat quarterback. Coming back, you got Levi Pender. He's going to be the starting quarterback. Carter Judah, who's the leading rusher. He's coming back for his junior year. You have Brandon McCrane, who is actually Mason McCrane. Brandon's already graduated. Mason McCrane, who is they use him as like a tight end, but he's a possession receiver. Cal Lawrence. Yes, you lose Lamont Burton, your leader on defense. You lose Cam White, your top player in the secondary and leading receiver. But I do think that Glenwood's going to be fine. That game against Valley, we'll find out if Glenwood is ready to play with the big boys. But I do believe going to 3A and taking on teams like Beulah, who's up the road, they're going to start being their region rival. Randolph County, they're going to take on Childersburg, PB Comer, and of course Lee Scott Academy. We'll see them play again. But I'm excited that Glenwood has made that transition to the AHSAA. I'm looking at their schedule. I cannot wait for some of these games. They're taking on Wadley, Elba, Dadeville, who's also another region opponent, and of course Sylacauga, who's a non-region opponent that's up the road as well. I think Glenwood will be fine. I do believe. Remember, 4 teams make the playoffs in this region. Beulah actually made the playoffs last year. The Beulah Bobcats, who are in Valley, they're continuing to build their football program and upgrade their facilities. They're getting a new football stadium. I would pencil in that game. September the 20th, Glenwood travels maybe about 30 minutes up the road to Beulah, taking the back roads. It's just on the outskirts of Valley. I think that's going to be just an absolutely phenomenal game because get ready. I think these two teams are going to be region rivals because of their close proximity to each other.
I think that's a great
Richard's
point.
making a sales pitch to you, Thrift, on where he wants to be September 20th.
I know. I was just looking at him like, I mean, if we got nothing else going, if you want to make that drive, Big Rich, for sure go do that. Moving on from there, we're going to go to a team that I just sat down with the AD. His name is Rance Gillespie. He won a state championship at Peach County. He was an offensive coordinator for Georgia Southern. The guy has been to state championships. He coached at Valdosta. He's won a lot of games. And now he's at Brookstone. And in his first 2 years, he was one play away, 4th and about 15. And Cam Ellis made the play of the year to help Pacelli win a state championship in 2022. Or Brookstone would have played Stratford. And Brookstone would have been probably state champions. And the next year, they do upset Pacelli in the Elite Eight and make it all the way to the state championship game. They would have. I was on the call for that. As First Presbyterian Day beat them, their quarterback's going to Syracuse. Brookstone, I think, again, replacing talent, including their quarterback, Richard. But I just believe in what Rance Gillespie. This guy is an offensive guru. I expect he'll have probably a new starting quarterback for the third straight year, and I think that he is one of the very few coaches that can be able to do that and continue to win at a high level. They played at Tattnall Square first, then Valwood. They won the 3A state championship in the GIAA last year. They play at First Presbyterian Day. They replaced some talent. Then they got Calvary and Pacelli. Man, can you believe that we're saying that? All three of those teams are in the same region. I got Brookstone being 7-3, 6-4, just like they were the last 2 years, and competing for a state championship. They're going to continue to do that until Rance Gillespie decides he doesn't want to coach anymore. And let me give you a hint, fellas. This guy's in incredible shape. He's in better shape than I am, and I know he's a lot older than me. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon, and he's starting to build a real program for the Cougars. Richard, you go first, and Rick, what do you got for Brookstone?
Well, first of all, I'm really excited to see Brookstone Media Day Saturday morning because Coach Rance Gillespie, who I consider as a quarterback whisperer, he's going to have 3 quarterbacks in the last 3 years. He had Andrew Alford, who's now at Central, but he is one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Alabama. Brooks Roney, who really held his own. Brookstone finally got over the hump and beat Pacelli. They don't get to keep the Brucelli jug because it was a playoff game, but they got the monkey off their back. They were able to beat Pacelli, and they go on to take on First Presbyterian Day in the GIAA championship. When you think about possible returning players, their leading receiver, Maxwell Jones, should be back. He was a junior last year. Yes, they do lose Chris Vickerson, who was just a skilled possession tight end. But yeah, they're going to be missing Lane Cannon, who is also he was a senior. He rushed for over 1,000 yards, like 1,200 yards last year. Just an incredible season. So they're going to have to fill the bill getting a new running back. But that Coach Gillespie is going to have them ready to play. I'm excited to see what Brookstone can do this upcoming season, and I just can't wait. Max Strong Stadium is going to be electric. And the Brookstone fans are going to be out there supporting the Cougars.
Yeah, I feel they're going to have a really good season. Once you get that monkey off your back, once you know you can do something, I think that's going to kind of get Brookstone in that mindset now where, it's not a struggle. If we get there, can we manage to, get the job done? They know with Coach Gillespie, which, you call him the offensive guru, the quarterback whisperer. He's always going to have a good offense. His mind's just in a whole different level. That shows with these private schools from 10, 15, 20 years ago, so different now, where a coach like, Rance wouldn't be at a private school, so to say, 15, 20 years ago, where now that's leading the way. You look at, all these private schools that have been dominant the last few years, and this is what they're catching up. And that's what Brookstone's done, is get a guy in there that can, teach this offense every year. And it's pretty much just plug and play. If you get, you're going to get good athletes, plug them in there, run the offense. And like I said, 6-4, 8-2 regular season, I think they'll be a threat in the playoffs.
From Brookstone, we'll do Calvary and Pacelli together. And I'll tell you this, fellas, I think Calvary has one of the best futures in I'm talking about a lot of teams outside of maybe Central. I really believe in the future of what is Calvary and their middle school group. I do think this year they'll be competitive in the GIAA. I think they have the skill set to allow them, the receivers and their quarterback play and the offensive ingenuity of Emmanuel Brunson. He'll score points and have them in games. The problem where I see is that offensive and defensive line. Now you're going up against teams that have the big boys. GIAA has a lot of talented players. I don't want to hear they can compete with GHSA. I'm telling you, they have huge offensive linemen that push people around. Y'all saw Flint River, right? Last year, the Calvary got a firsthand experience of them. Now, not every team is big as Flint River, but I do believe Calvary will be competitive. And Pacelli, I'm worried about them this year. Last 2 seasons, 8-2, 9-1, state champions. If they didn't lose that last game to Westfield, they would have been the number 1 seed heading in the playoffs last year and the favorite to win back-to-back states. But we're able to overcome it. I think they're going to have a lot to replace. I still think they make the playoffs, but I think they could be some underdogs in some games where in years past they were the favorites. They do replace their quarterback as well. But if anyone can win, the guy's name is Dwight Jones. He's won literally everywhere. Rick, we'll start with you. Calvary and Pacelli. Calvary, remember, last year, a yard away, maybe less than a yard, of winning a state championship. I mean, they were so close. Now going into the league, it's going to be a whole new ball game. What do you got, Rick?
Yeah, I think Emmanuel uses that. Coach Brunson, I've known him for years. He's going to use that as the motivation that you're a yard away, even though you're changing not just regions, whole classifications, you're going up to a whole different, setup. They can still use that. Maybe not compete for the state championship this year, but they're definitely trending. I think they got to get their numbers up a little bit on, your players. You talk about big guys up front. You can't just have 5.
Did we lose Rick?
Yeah, I think it froze.
That moving up. Pacelli, I think with Coach Dwight Jones, they'll be fine. Maybe not the 9-1, 8-2 season, but I think they'll still have a very, very good year. But just as teams we talked in the pool before, teams that didn't know how to win, you have to learn how to win. Sometimes teams don't know how to be that underdog. They don't understand, when you get down, and that's where Pacelli's going to have to maybe switch it up a little bit and kind of have that mentality of being the underdog.
I think that's a great point, man. And Richard, what is you're going to call some Calvary games this year, quite a few.
Oh, absolutely.
Pacelli is in a place where they have been competing and been a team that's won their region and been favorites in the playoffs the last several seasons. I'm with Rick. I mean, now they may not be the favorite. How are they going to respond to that? Are they going to like being the underdog? Maybe could be newfound motivation for Coach Dwight Jones and his team.
Well, when you win a state championship 2 years ago, you got a big target on your back, and Brookstone was prepared for that game against Pacelli. They're losing. I'm looking at their roster. They're losing their leading rusher who rushed for over 112 yards a game, Corvée James.
Wow.
But they're getting Jason Nelson back. We know AZ Justy, the two-way player, electric corner wide receiver. They're losing Christian Brown. They're going to lose a lot on their team. But that's where Coach Dwight Jones develops players and gets them to step up. I'm really excited to see what Pacelli can do in the GIAA now with Calvary and Brookstone. As far as Calvary, I'm a believer in what Coach Emmanuel Brunson is building at Calvary. Like you mentioned, 1 yard away from winning the GAPS championship. Now they're in the GIAA. You do lose your quarterback, Luke Zavak, and your star running back, DeAndre Hurd. But you got Luke Scoggins coming back. He is a Swiss Army knife. You don't want to kick it to him. He's a great punt returner, in the slot. And I think that Nate Osborne is probably going to be the starting quarterback. I just cannot wait for that game. August the 16th, they take on a GHSA school in Terrell County, just down the road in Dawson. It's about an hour south of Columbus. So you know that this is going to be a test to see if Calvary can face a lower classification of a GHSA school. They're in Division I, but Terrell County is going to be coming up to just that beautiful stadium that's been renovated. They got a brand new press box. I can't wait to call that first game at Calvary where you have the new press box. And it was just a very special moment, like the couple of games and the playoff game, the championship game that we call for Calvary Christian. And I expect that this season to be the same.
And I also think that could be the place of high school game day.
I was going to say, I didn't know if you we're looking at some possible.
I'm feeling it.
I'm kind of feeling that too. That was our last high school game day for the football season, by the way.
Right. I like it, Richard. I think we may have our place. I know we won't be able to do Manchester Harris County is going to be one of the biggest game of the weekend. Rick Beach will be there for that, but we won't be able to do that game as it's at Manchester. It's just a lot.
Right.
But I do fully expect us to be able to do that. I like that Calvary Terrell game. I really do.
Absolutely.
And then we'll probably get them later in the season when they host Pacelli. So keep that on the
no
docket
question.
as well. But yeah, Calvary, Pacelli, moving on from them. North side. Richard, I'm going to make this statement. And Rick Beach, you're joining us. North side 2 years ago was what Harris County was last year. Okay? Now, I got to ask you this, Big Rick. They return Caden Clay, who I think is the best quarterback outside of Alford from Central in our area. I think this guy's going to be high-level D2 or, FCS, D1, what do they call them? The MAC, the Sun Belt, that type of conference. This guy's elite. I think Northside returns a lot of talent. Coach Oropeza knows how to win. I think Northside could be the favorite to win this region that Harris County's in, for one. And I think they could be one of the best teams in Columbus out of all the schools in Columbus, including the private schools. I think Northside could be that. And they play Carver, by the way. So can't wait to be there for that game. That's going to be a lot of fun. Rick, you got to see Northside last year. Harris County just bullied them up and down the field. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher this year, but I feel like the game plan for Harris County, get the ball out to the weapons, let Caden Clay cook. For Harris County, it's obviously going to be just let's punch them in the mouth and see if they can respond again. But what do you think about Northside?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about like last year, if you keep the offense on the sidelines, they can't beat you. But there's a lot of skill players at Northside. You look at Rivers and some of these other guys, they got a lot of skill players that can make plays,
Right.
And they're going to continue to do that. And, going to a different region, that's going to be a kind of a step up from, even though you're coming down technically from 5A to 4A, but this is a very tough region with Central Carroll, Stars Mill, Monday's Mill. You look at these teams that all had pretty good seasons last year outside of Greenville. Winning the region is hard to say for anybody because you don't know what anybody has. Central Carroll going 10-0 last season, but we don't know what they're playing, because we're, worried about our own mess going on, and Columbus
Right.
schools worried about their stuff going on. So you
Right.
really don't know what these schools have. But Northside, they have the talent. They got the coach, and Coach O, we know him up here. He's a great coach. He's, going to have them prepared. They have a lot of support down there. And it's always a great game against Harris County. But, you look at their schedule, non-conference, they're iron sharpens iron. They believe in that as well. And you're playing good teams non-region only makes your region play better, in my opinion.
What do you got? What do you think about that opinion, Rich? You like Northside? I think they're going to be excellent this year.
Love Northside. I was actually on the call 2 years ago when they made it to the second round of the 5A state championship playoffs where they took on Warner Robins, who was back-to-back champions. And that was when I got a first look at Malachi Hosley. And I was just excited. He was just an all-world running back. He's now at Penn. But, you have Kingston Rivers and Jay Jackson, who learned from Malachi in the backfield, just had a coming-out party last year. I do like Caden Clay coming back. He's a 3-year starter for Northside. He had 14 touchdowns last year. But something to just be mindful of, he does lose his top 3 receivers. They have gone on to graduate. Nate Osborne was his security blanket when he needed a big play on third down. They do lose some players on defense. But Northside schedule, and hopefully we'll have that game also on Georgia Alabama Sports Live when they face Shaw at Kinnett Stadium on August the 16th. But I'm penciling in September 13th. Folks, they're playing Carver. This does not happen that often. To see Northside and Carver, like you mentioned, Rick, iron sharpens iron. You want to see the two top teams here in Columbus face each other. And even though they're not region opponents, this is what everybody wants to see. It's going to be down at Otis Spencer Stadium. And I can't wait for that game. I seriously can't, because it's going to be strength on strength. And like you mentioned, Northside, Harris County, they play on September the 27th. That's going to be up at the county. And it's going to be a new reclassification for both teams as they make that transition down to 4A.
27-7 county just laid the wood to Northside. Me and Rick were on the call for that one. But then the year before,
13-minute drive in the third quarter.
I mean, it was unreal what we watched last year. And it was an offensive clinic. The defense was elite, and they just showed why that really opened my eyes of seeing like Harris County could do something special this year, which they did after that game. And then to go on the next week to beat Sandy Creek. And we're like, man, we're going to come here the next week. There's no way to continue this. Then they beat Northgate. I was like, man, there's no way. And Harris County just kept doing it each and every week, man. It was cool to be up in the county and be on the ride for someone that lived up there for
7 home games last year. So it was the possibility to have Georgia Alabama Sports Live presented itself quite often with 7 home games.
Exactly right. But the year before, Northside did beat Harris County at Harris County 21-7. So Northside has responded in cold weather. So we can't wait for that one. I really like Northside. I can't wait to hear from Coach Orpeza and Caden Clay. All right, we'll wrap it up with 2 more schools, Smith Station and Central. I'll start with Smith's. I just don't see it, fellas. They got a lot of they got an uphill climb, and the new coach knows that. He fully believes his team's going to get better. It's just the region they're in, man. Opelika, Auburn, and Central. Are you kidding me? Like, that's hard. That would be hard for anybody. And I think Smith Station is going to have a tough time being able to – we lost Richard – being able to handle being in that region. Central, though, I know they replaced the all-world who's going to be playing at Auburn. Me and Rick will be seeing a lot of him this year, receiver. But I think Central, again, they reload, and I think it's going to be them in the state championship until Andrew Alford goes on to the next level, which this will be his senior year. But what I saw from him last year, wow, that guy elite for sure. All right, Rick, what do you got? Tell me what's happening with those
Central's
two schools.
Just going to be. It's not just with Alfred. I think as long as Nix is over there, it's just going to keep rolling right back over. You get the talent. They've been that way for years on years. And Central just, it's a machine. It's a football machine, not just in Phoenix City. It's the whole state, in the Southeast. When you're getting nationally ranked and stuff like that, I mean, it's a phenomenal program they have over there. They have a top-notch head coach that probably should be coaching in a college somewhere. And they're just producing, and I don't see that machine slow down. As far as Smith goes, I mean, what's that say? They say around here, bless their heart. I mean, you're in that region. they got Opelika a couple years ago. I guess there'll be another 10, 15 years before they can slip up on somebody else. It's just
they host Central, and we'll be there for that. They host Central, so we will be there for that.
Packed out. It's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere. It's going to be
Backyard
a great
brawl.
atmosphere.
Yeah,
and I think up until the ball leaves that tee, it's going to be, some great Alabama high school football. But once that ball gets in that, that Alabama air, that game's over with.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen with Smith Station this year. Maybe they go 5-5 and make some noise and just be competitive.
That's what they have to look at. I mean, that
right.
has to be their goals when you're looking at your season. I mean, you're not going 10-0, obviously. You just win the games that are within reach, and then try to snipe somebody on the side, and try to backdoor your way into a playoff berth. But in that region, it's about impossible.
Now, Smith Central does have a tough region. Richard, what are your comments? I mean, it's not a tough region.
He said,
well, as you know, I did lose power, so you can't see me, but I do think, yeah, because my internet is still working. So apparently, I called Smith Station 2 years ago when they beat Prattville, and that was a very big deal. Coach Mike Glisson, very emotional. WRBL interviewed him. It was absolutely incredible win. I thought they were going to build off that win, but Smith Station is just in a brutal schedule. When you're playing in 7A, you got Central up the road, you got Opelika, you even got Russell County, because 3 years ago Russell County ends up beating Smith Station, and that never happened. I just think that Smith Station, they got the right coach. I think that Brian Harrison is a good coach. You got to just build a culture, because the fan base is there. I know what that atmosphere is like at TC Britton Field at Panther Stadium. The fans definitely come to see Smith Station play. And I'm just excited just to see Smith Station this year, because they are hosting Central in the backyard brawl. And so with that, hang on 1 second there. No, in the backyard brawl, my power just came back on, but I'm trying to make sure to get my camera. There we go.
There he is.
All right.
All right, Rich. But I agree with you. I like Smith Station to be improved upon last year. They also, in week 1, their first game, the 23rd, guess what? They are taking on Shaw. So Shaw Raiders will be heading all the way over to Smith
Yeah.
Station.
The
And
State Line Showdown. That's going to be on WTVM, like they did last year, where they did the Glenwood Brookstone game.
It's a great point. That is exactly right, Richard. But guess what? On that same Friday is Harris County, Troup County, Valley at Glenwood, and Spencer at Carver. So guess what? There will be 4 games you can watch. You can watch on WTVM, the State Line Showdown, which they did last year. Y'all did Russell County, Harris County. Me and DJ Jones did Spencer Carver. That's probably what's going to happen this year. Rick and County, Richard at Glenwood, and I'm over at Carver and Spencer. Woo! And they're going to be doing Shaw Smith Station. Just sit back, relax, and eat your popcorn. August the 23rd. And then that Thursday is Washington at Hardaway. We're going to try to get Coach McKenzie's team if we can. All right, guys. I think we all agree Central is one of the favorites to win it all next year. Looking forward to the high school football season. Rick, let's go ahead and tell everyone before we get you off of here what's coming up. Literally starting hopefully next week or the week after, we'll have more information on that after we're having a meeting, GAS Live people, and the new team. And we are going to create a meeting, and we're attacking this year. And so tell everybody where you're going to be stop and shop for your show that's coming up every week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Yeah, excited about the show. This Friday up in Harris County, black and gold game is a little $5 to get in. Check out a scrimmage. Next Friday, Harris County goes up to LaGrange for a scrimmage. And then that next Friday, you got football up in Manchester. So it's here. I mean, football season's not coming. If, for these teams, if you're Harris County, you're supporting Harris County, football season's here. Come up here, pay $5, come, get to see these guys, see this new quarterback, some of these new faces that you're going to hopefully see a lot of. And you can just see this team and, see their physicality that, we're going to keep talking about it because it's so true. And until you really see it in person, you don't understand how physical they are.
Exactly.
Even against each other in a black and gold game, they will be very, very physical this Friday, or Coach Watson will not be a happy man.
No doubt. And I can't wait to see the Kudzu Sports Show. You're going to hear all, and then you're also going to have the Harris County Coaches Show. So you got both those shows you're going to be doing. You're going to be a contributor on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. You're going to be on game day periodically. You're going to be calling all things Harris County, and you're also going to be calling any other sport I asked you to because you just love calling sports. Every football game. You're going to be busy every Friday, even if it's not a county game. Richard, it's going to be a great time this Wednesday. Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Can't wait to be there for that one. And then hopefully, I'm hoping that we can get Carver and Smith Station and Central on steady the programs. But if not, we had a great year. I was glad to be able to hit all the schools around the area. I'm glad both of y'all got to interview Mindy at Harris County with you, Rick, and then Richard, you did a 5 or 6 of them. You did a great job with all them. I just think it was another great segment for us, great series. That's part of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Network. And guess what? Now we're here. And starting next week, it's not going to be next week, but it will be. I'll tell you the date. August the 11th. That show, that Sunday night, you're going to have Kudzu's Sports Show. And right after is our show. And on our show, Rick is going to come on, and we're basically going to be giving our rankings, preseason rankings. We're also going to be giving our records for all the teams after looking at their schedule. I can't wait, and we may even have another guest. We may have Jack Patterson or so to give us his thoughts. We won't have a 4 panel. It's just going to be 3, but I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun, Richard, and I know you can't wait to be involved either. Me and Richard will break down the teams. Rick will come on, give us his thoughts on some of the teams and his rankings, and then we'll wrap it out of here. But that's coming up in 2 weeks. Last thought, rapid fire. USA Men's Olympics team looked incredible today. Kevin Durant, this is why I don't even know why I thought they were going to struggle. Because guess what? When you got a guy that's 6'11" and can shoot the way Kevin Durant does, and he hadn't played, it doesn't matter if they are struggling and don't have an offensive system or whatever. I know everybody's making a big deal about Jason Tatum. I thought he did a great job with substitutions. I thought this was a really good unit that played well together. He's still figuring them out. he'll find a way to play Tatum, but I'm not as much in an uproar. And I really like how this team is built. Richard, your thought, and then Rick, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, it was just a game where it was close in the first half, but they just put it away with depth. Remember, Kevin Durant didn't start. He only played 17 minutes, but he had 23 points, 8 of 9 from the field.
Come on, man.
And really, they focused on defense. The fact that Drew Holiday starting, I don't think people realize what a valuable player Drew Holiday is. A great two-way guard that could shut down your best guard. And I'm excited about Wednesday because they take on South Sudan, the team they beat by 1 point, that they were down by 15. South Sudan beat Puerto Rico. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what Luol Deng has been doing with South Sudan. He is the president of basketball operations. I think that's deserving of a head coaching job in the NBA. I honestly think that Luol Deng needs to at least be an assistant coach for what he has done, because South Sudan doesn't even have Bol, the talented center from the Phoenix Suns. He's not even on the team. But South Sudan is been the story of the Olympics. So get ready. Wednesday, I know that the United States will play up to the competition and they will probably get the win and advance out of the group. But South Sudan, they've really put this Olympics on notice after getting that win over Puerto Rico.
Is Richard on NBC payroll for trying to get people to watch the game? It's over. Give them the 2028 gold in LA. Basketball is going to be the goal for USA until they quit taking top tier NBA players and playing them. If they went back to amateurs only, I think you could take the top 12 college players and they're going to win gold in a basketball in the Olympics. I think it's just foregone conclusion. They're going to win. It's a matter of how much. If they take it seriously, they'll blow everybody out. I think of that every year. 9 times out of 10, they do it every year.
I agree with you. And I like what I see from this team. And I'm not going to second guess them. Couple things too. Noah Eagle, Ian Eagle's son. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him. I thought he was going to be overrated. And Dwayne Wade, I started liking his phrases. I mean, some of them were corny, but I actually enjoyed it. I think he's fun. His pronouns are he, him. When he kept saying that about LeBron, I mean, what killed me the most was, you know him as LeBron James, America, but I know him personally. His pronouns are he, him. And I mean, he said that about 4 or 5 times. I'm like, all right, D-Wade, you made your point. Great. You came up with that right before it. No doubt about it. But it was good to see that they won, and I expect them in their pool to dominate. South Sudan will be probably the third team. Serbia will be the second team. I think France is really good, and I think Germany are the 2 teams that I'm worried about more than even Canada. But we'll see. That's why I love the Olympics. Can't wait to watch them on Wednesday. And we got our show Wednesday night, so we'll be able to talk about that game, Richard, because it'll be happening in the afternoon before our show. Rick Beach, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to hopefully everybody be on standby. But we got media days this week. Muscogee County on Friday, Brookstone on Saturday. I'm just letting you know right now, or it may not be this Saturday, maybe next Saturday. I know the Muscogee County is this Friday. But Harris County could be having a media day, maybe Calvary. So be on the lookout for that as we're game planning, we're plotting. Rick, thank you so much. Richard, love you, man. Glad you're back. Looking forward to a busy week on Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. From Rick Beach, Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift, Barringer saying good night, everyone. We'll see you next time on Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. Thank you for watching the Georgia, Alabama Sports Live show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.